Welcome to Sushi, Sex, and Subtitles. This podcast creates a reflective and honest space for Black and multicultural families, single parent families, to explore raising kids in a non traditional way, but within kingdom principles. We are a Christ centered platform sharing stories that deserve to be heard, comparison, or apology. Through honest and reflective conversations, we explore the social, cultural, and emotional realities that uniquely shape single parent households, offering language, validation, community, which is mostly missing, and ultimately healing from the inside out. My name is Angela Hunter. I'm your host. Thank you for being here. Come on, let's do this. Welcome back to Sushi, Sex, and Subtitle. It's your girl, Angela Hunter. Thank you so much to everyone who encouraged me, who watched the podcast, who shared it, who liked it, who texted me. That really means the most to me. You are the real MVP. So I want to thank you for supporting me in this divine endeavor. I am enjoying myself immensely. The editing, remember, passionate, not professional. I got a lot of things going on in this second episode, but bear with me. I'm liking all these little things that I'm finding. Oh, and I want to make a correction up front. I actually have two sons who went to college. Same result, so the story can be applied to either son, but two sons who went to college. The other thing I want to say is, Kim, you did that. As I was watching this back, I was seeing myself being inspired as I listened to you. So when you see me go, or okay, know that it was hitting the soul, it was hitting deep. And if you know somebody who needs to be encouraged, this is the episode that they need to watch. In episode 1, she told us about her background, how she was raised, but in this episode, she talks about raising Christopher. She's an accomplished mother. She's well far into her parenting, and the information, the wisdom, the passion, the knowledge, the encouragement that she gives to us is hands down amazing. It will help your soul. Thank you, Kim, for pouring into my audience. You are going to be blessed. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, watch, all the things. You know what they say on social media. Just do it. So let's get into it. Plus, I gotta go to bed. As a mom, I've tried to instill in my kids certain things. Like I was telling you about going to school, educating yourself, different things like that. They didn't really drink from the cup of you need to go to college. Like I had one son who did go to college, but he did a year. Praise God. That was the end of that road for him. He just wasn't focused enough to do college on his own. And I definitely couldn't at that age be on his neck about did you do your homework and this is and that. Whereas previously in high school, I didn't even have to do that. I didn't have to say to him, did you do your homework? Because he just did it. So for me, it was just blew my mind how you could go from doing that all these years without me checking up on you to you just don't do it at all. I was just like,
Right. Mhm.
where's the conversion? I held on. It was something I missed or didn't instill in him or didn't give to him. It would have taught him the importance of focus. When I had Greco, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. No,
Right.
I had Greco and I got pregnant in 99 and I had him in 2000. He was supposed to be the millennial baby. His due date was January 1st of 2000. So I was really just hoping like I could really and I'm gonna get all this up. But of course he came a week late. And if you know me, you know that I might be a little tardy. So I was like, oh man, you came late like your mom is. It's okay. When I had Greco, I was still living a young person lifestyle.
Mhm.
I was what the kids call today outside fully, just in spaces that I didn't need to be in. And I always say that God gave me Greco to really save me, to take me out of those spaces. And I was just kind of stumbling upon, oh man, what does this motherhood thing really look like for me? I was trying to get it right day one. I didn't want to get it right year 15. I knew early on, really had that feeling like I had to move away from that lifestyle. So I left Atlanta because the majority of my friends, my circle, we was all outside. And I moved to Columbus, Ohio, around more family, aunties, uncles, my grandparent, my grandmother. Columbus at the time was just one of the best places to raise children, especially for a Black family. Their clubs was closing at 2 and 3. In Atlanta, the clubs closed at 6 a.m. And I was definitely there at 6 a.m. and going to the Waffle House afterwards. So when I say
Right.
outside, I was all the way out there. Moving to Columbus, I started to kind of make those necessary adjustments so that I could be more focused on being a mother. In the beginning years, I was just really trying to get it right. I did do a lot of things right, but I was so within myself anxious about how I was doing this thing called motherhood. I
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that my child and myself was going to have this certain bond that we were going to be able to communicate with each other. I was just always about my mothering. And
Right.
I
Mhm.
didn't sit back and relax a little bit. Now, with my fifth kid, who is 9, I'm way more relaxed about life and
Mhm.
how we go about life. We stop and we smell the roses. I really focus on the time that I spend to. I don't need her to grow up soon.
Right.
When she was a baby, I used to yell at her siblings like, "Don't teach her how to walk. She's gonna walk whenever she walks. You don't even have to teach her how to walk. She's just going to walk,
He's
right?
gonna, yeah, right. Mhm.
Let her figure it out when it gets there. Right now, pick her up. If you don't want to pick her up, bring her over here to me." I just didn't want her to reach milestones too early because my parenting style, my thought process, my perspective had changed. I knew how important these early years are with being
Mhm.
with my kid and just savoring all those moments and things like that. How old were you when you had Christopher? Like 22, 23?
I was 23, and I did want to say, Angela, I don't think I've met a mother yet who thinks she's done everything right. And I don't want anyone to think I feel like I've done everything right with Christopher. And just to touch on what you said about your son, here's what I think happened for Christopher being an only child. It goes back to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher loves school because he created community there. Because
Mm-hmm.
being the only child, he didn't. I mean, we had Christopher and we did game nights, once a week after school. I had a job where I could get off work, be at home, have dinner, help him with homework. We'd have a night where we watch TV together, game night another night. The weekends, it was either we go to the library. I create adventure by going to the park. I was always, active with him that way. But
Mm-hmm.
school was community for him and he loved it. I think that's why he loved college and carried over to college also, instilling in him if you want to be a graphic designer, you're gonna have to have that education
Mm-hmm.
because it creates legitimacy,
Mm-hmm.
especially being a Black person.
Yeah, yeah.
Not to say that you can't get a job being a graphic designer without a
Absolutely.
degree,
Yeah,
but being a Black man in this country,
yeah, yeah.
you might want to get that degree
Absolutely.
to back up your artistry to get that job. But
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that I don't by any means you think that I was a perfect parent or at all. I have some things that I wish I could have a do-over.
What things did you struggle with when
Mhm.
Christopher was young that became a blessing in disguise for you, or something that you overcame that was really a struggle for you when he was little?
Communication. Because I was such a loner. It goes back to that. So I didn't really know how to communicate with my mom. But that was my personality type.
Hmm.
Being such a loner, and then also having a mom who really didn't know how to communicate either,
Hmm.
you know, because that's not the era that she came from.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the mom, you do what I tell you, and that's it. But I didn't want to raise my child that way. So I struggled to figure out how to communicate with him. But as he got older, and as it uncomfortable as it was, I
Mm.
figured it out.
Yeah.
I figured it out by doing things like I handed my kid a journal and I said, if there's anything you want to talk to me about, I want you to write it down in this journal. As he got older, even now, Christopher and I, like, I think I mentioned this to you before. Now we can talk to each other like peers, you
Hmm.
know? And of course, as a parent, I guess I could talk to my child as mother and son and as peers out of respect, and my son knows he can come and talk to me if he needs my help with anything without me judging him. So over time that evolved my communication with him. He's always known how to communicate because I opened up that space and I figured it out. It took me a while how to learn how to figure it out, but
Absolutely.
because I've always told him. But I struggled with it, but I eventually got there, you
Um,
know.
I understand that now. I would say my oldest and I, we have this great relationship. He still talks to me. Sometimes I'd be like, TMI, TMI, you at the age where it's TMI, you know what I mean? But he wants to know, he knows I have those years, decades on him. So he wants more of that information. However, it's funny how I have this great relationship with my communication relationship. When I say great relationship, I have this great pathway of communication with my oldest, and even with my middle daughter. But I would say my youngest son and my oldest daughter, there's a gap there. And even as a older mom, I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like. And it's different in this day and age, trying to figure it out because there's so many new rules in the world and in the culture, um,
Right.
of what is acceptable, what is not. You have people who say that going silent on your parents is okay. It's a way of setting boundaries. And I believe there are some parents who probably shouldn't have been parents. There are some parents that overstep their boundaries by, abusing their children and things like that. So I definitely get it in those spaces. If you go radio silent on an abusive parent, there's justification there, but short of any sort of abuse, you have all of these third party experts, professionals that is feeding the social media, it's feeding our children, young folks, I guess is Z and Y, that really Gen Y, and yes, Gen Z too, that it's okay to just disappear and not say anything and not really even have a conversation of why this space exists. So I'm happy that I have that communication with, you know, three of my kids, right? Because even Alea, I give her that space to communicate, and I try to show her the line where respect ends and disrespect begins. She just is a kid and she'll say, "Grr." I'd be like, whoa, yeah, that's something you see on TV. That's not something we say in the house to each other. And that's a beautiful thing to be able to overcome, just kind of
Right.
being a person who talks in your mind, talks to yourself, talks to God, to now having to, take that which is this way or inward and direct it outward in a focused and purposeful way. So I love that. I love that, you know,
Let
that
me
being
let
his
me
struggle. Okay.
let me say I can't imagine living in a world where my son is out in the world telling people I've gone no contact with my mom because of something, because I've made him feel hurt,
Mm-hmm.
because I put him in a painful place,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I've physically and mentally or just verbally
Mm-hmm.
made him feel pain. I
Yeah.
can't imagine. I can't imagine that, Angela.
Yeah. And that is one thought of having to reconcile internally, right? Some of
Hmm.
your actions that may have caused a child to go non-contact. But then you also have a group of parents that don't even know why.
Hmm.
There sometimes I feel like um, there's so much information that is available to these younger generations. When I was, first got introduced to the internet, right?
Hmm.
And that's when it was first introduced to the world. We were taught in school how to find legitimate websites, right? How to search the internet, how to identify what is factual and what is not. And today, that behind the scenes research, I think, is lacking. So it could be a 5-second clip on TikTok or some other platform with no data behind it. It just sounds good. It has buzzwords, right,
Right,
to it. And these generations are just taking it to heart as it's truth, like it's biblical truth, right?
right.
And
Hmm.
so they're making decisions off of falsehoods, which is creating these issues, right? And so sometimes there's also a crux of people who don't even know why. And the why, when you start to shift out the pan, it don't even make sense, right? It's just becomes a little bit of lost time there between the two. So on both sides though, it
Hmm.
makes a parent do a lot of soul searching.
Right. Hmm. Like you said, I mean, abuse and those type of things. Yeah, I mean, personality clashes. Sometimes parents get into it, kids, but you can, there are things to be worked through. Yeah,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
might shut down on each other for a little while.
Mhm.
And some people may feel, you know, they may have to go no contact, force, certain things like you said earlier, abuse, physical, sexual, certain things, essay, sorry,
Mhm.
certain things I know I can't say. But man, I'd be like, I'm sorry, what do I do to you? What's going on?
Right. And here's the thing. By that point, when you figured it out as a parent,
Mhm.
you're blocked, right? There,
Yeah.
there is nothing but emptiness in that space for you. There's nobody to respond back. And that's so unfortunate, I'm finding.
Yeah.
So even for me, it's like, you know, with my son and daughter, I think my son is just quiet though, naturally.
Hmm.
And so I know he loves me, but he's just
Right.
quiet. He's
You're
just
just
not
quiet.
he not gonna come up to me and talk my ear off. That is
Yeah.
not even his personality.
Yeah, but that's not no contact. He's not. He hadn't just shut you out. He's just quiet.
He is,
That's different.
but
Yeah.
at the same time, he ain't calling
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
It feels like no contact, right? And so if you have a child where it's hard to get in touch with them,
Mhm.
don't really return calls. But let's say I come into town and he sees me, he gonna talk to me. He's gonna hug me, and ask me a question, how I've been, da 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 da. But outside of it being in person and I had the opportunity to see him,
Mhm.
he's not picking up the phone. He's not even texting me to say, "Hey, Ma, how you doing today?" None of that. So that creates, a stirring on the inside, right? To just find, because, and the problem is really more with me than anything, because I have these expectations of what I want my relationship to look like with my kids, and it's not meeting these metrics, right? So I'm trying to fix something that may not even need to be fixed. I might just need to be more accepting of the
Mhm.
situation and just have more appreciation when the time comes when we're able to kind of meet, and so I do know that it's more of a me thing. I'm always trying to kind of like pull him. What's that thing, tug of war, where you just pull the rope and you're pulling them closer? I want to pull them closer to what my metrics are so my heart can, do a dance or do a jig and things like that. So,
Mhm. Let me
um,
let me tell you what helped me,
hmm
if I can.
absolutely.
Okay. I well, I have a best friend, a best male friend. I've known her since I was 12 years old because I was struggling with the same thing that you're struggling with. And I was saying to him, because Christopher is the same way, okay? And to go back to our conversation earlier, how I was saying, it's not that I don't love my mom, but I was a loner growing up. Even as an adult, I didn't call my mom every day. I went off into the service, thought about my mom all the time, didn't necessarily pick up the phone all the time to talk to her, call her, uh, just out living my life. But now that has changed, as I've gotten older and she's got older, I call my mom every day now. Every single day, Angela. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 20 minutes, when I know she needs to talk, I'll just hold on to the phone and let her talk. So I was telling my friend a couple of years ago, uh, I was like, I don't like it that Christopher don't call me every day. You know? He said, Kim, Christopher is a grown man. Leave him alone. Why does he need to call you every single day? He said, did you call your mom every single day while you was out in the world living your life? He said, if he needs you, and when he has needed you, hasn't he called you? I said, you know what? Yeah. He said, well, leave him alone then. And that's when I realized, leave him alone. He's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't mean that Christopher doesn't love me. He said, so now the one thing that I do require Christopher, that actually Christopher and I require of each other
hmm
before we get on the plane and when we land, we check in with each other. And we check in with each other every now and then, a text here and there. Hey, you okay? You good? You all right?
I love that.
And
I love
this just happened. The minute my plane landed in Australia, the first text I got, you good? I just saw your flight landed. The minute that plane landed. So you know what that tells me?
Mhm.
He's checking that flight
Yeah, yeah.
because I gave him the itinerary before I left that day. No, the night before I left Australia. We
hmm
had a good 20-minute conversation. Here's where everything is. I sent you the flight itinerary. I love you very much. I love you too, Mom. Everything's going to be good. Here, what are you doing while you're there? Cool. So I had to stop, like you said, I had to stop expecting our relationship to be a certain way
Mhm.
as far as what I expected,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was thinking in my head, my kid didn't love me because he wasn't calling me every day,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, knowing that he loves me,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I'm living in this world of misery thinking he don't love me because he won't call me. That was messing up my head, and at the same time knowing my kid loves me.
Yeah.
So that was just me making myself miserable. But that's but when he told me that those couple of years ago, I was like, you know what? Ding 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 ding. Stop it, Kim. Just stop it. Your kid does love you. He doesn't have to call you every day to get that across in your head.
Yeah.
But and funny thing is that we're talking about this. I just saw a clip of Kay Michelle in an interview that she was doing, saying the same thing about her son.
Hmm.
She was getting emotional because she was saying the same thing. She said it out loud. I want him to call me every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just wish I can scream to her, your son loves you, but he doesn't need to call you every day for you to have to know that.
Yeah.
you know?
And that's
Men.
true. That is true. That is one thing that I do know about Trey, that he has, like, I felt it when he said it to me. It was like he was putting his 10 toes down. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Mama, I love you. Why would you even think otherwise? Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, make it make sense. But like you say, the mind, it's a powerful tool, right? And when it
Mm-hmm.
starts to malfunction a little bit with bad thoughts and things like that, it's just that realignment that needs to occur to just really see things for what they are, and
Mm-hmm.
just be able to accept, I can't get my way all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's that kind of that selfishness, that I should be the center of their world. I birthed you. I'm not the center
Mm-hmm.
of your world. What's going on? Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? And that's just, a little bit of personal selfishness and things
It,
like that.
and
You
now
know,
that they're grown men, we're not the center of their worlds anymore.
at all, at all. So
And let me.
before you close out YouTube, go ahead and click the subscribe button so you can be notified when episode 3 drops. We will be continuing the conversation of raising Christopher. Today, our lessons were about communication and understanding that your child's expression of love will change over time. Remember to share this podcast with a single parent who needs to be encouraged. Thank you for joining Sushi, Sex, and Subtitles. Until the next time.